the Cold War could have and almost did lead to the destruction of the world on numerous occasions. A deeper look inside the world of U.S. nuclear policy, for example, is a journey through a labyrinth of close calls, decision-making, and planning simply devoid of all conceivable logic, and facts that sound totally unbelievable until you find out that they're completely true. Beginning in June 1961, the official policy, if the U.S. launched a first strike, was to unleash its entire nuclear arsenal of 3,423 weapons, totaling over 7,000 megatons. Compared to the 14-kiloton weapon dropped on the city of Hiroshima, this barrage of bombs would be distributed not only to Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, but also China. This policy, known as the Single Integrated Operational Plan, was estimated to kill over 100 million Russians, let alone the rest of the targeted areas. Fred Kaplan, in his book Wizards of Armageddon, put the total fatality estimate at close to 300 million. But who's to say? Indeed, even before the rapid buildup of nuclear weapons in the 1980s, we had more than enough firepower to destroy the world.
The terror-induced anesthesia, which suspended rational thought, made nuclear war thinkable and grossly excessive arsenals possible during the Cold War.
That's General George Lee Butler, the last chief of the Strategic Air Command, or SAC. He would also lead SAC's successor, the U.S. Strategic Command. After leaving his post, Butler would become a foremost nuclear deproliferation activist, even calling for their complete abolition. In a 2015 interview, he spoke candidly about his responsibilities as SAC commander, which included writing the U.S. nuclear war plan. At its height, we had 36,000 weapons. Imagine that. 36,000. We had warheads on artillery shells that could be launched from jeeps. We had dozens of warhead types and delivery systems. Indeed, the portability of tactical nuclear weapons had become absurd. This footage, showing the 1962 Little Feller tests, declassified in 1997, shows the firing of a tripod-mounted recoilless rifle armed with a 70-pound W-54 warhead, the smallest nuke ever developed by the U.S. military. The launcher, nicknamed Davy Crockett, could also be mounted, as General Butler said, on a jeep and operated by as few as 2 men. It could launch the projectile just miles away and had the destructive power of around 20 tons of TNT, which also, of course, irradiated everything around the blast. Deterrence was an open-ended invitation to just build more and more complicated systems. We always found a reason to go to the next level of arms. Of course, this was true even before the Davy Crockett nuclear launcher. The year before, in 1961, the Soviets had outgunned the United States in the nuclear race by testing the largest weapon ever detonated, the Tsar Bomba, which was, and this sounds hard to believe, but it's actually true, 15 times the destructive power of every bomb dropped in all of World War II. Having dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan less than 6 years earlier, President Harry S. Truman authorized the transfer of 9 nuclear bombs to the Air Force to be deployed to the island of Okinawa. In April of 1951, General Douglas MacArthur had lobbied hard for their use, and even considered creating a sea of irradiated cobalt along the North Korean border with China. Truman's successor, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and his Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, had drafted plans for nuking China in the event of their intervention in Vietnam, a fact revealed by Daniel Ellsberg's Pentagon Papers. Eisenhower's Joint Chiefs of Staff again mulled over deploying nuclear weapons against China during the Taiwan Strait crisis in 1958. Of course, Kennedy would see the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962, during which a Soviet submarine armed a nuclear warhead-tipped torpedo for launch. Again in Vietnam, General William Westmoreland drafted the top-secret Fracture Jaw Plan to transfer nuclear weapons to South Vietnam to be used against the North. On October 9, 1973, during the Yom Kippur War, Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir ordered nuclear strike planes and missiles to go on alert. We escaped the Cold War without a nuclear holocaust by some combination of skill, luck, and divine intervention, probably the latter in greatest proportion.